What if the problem isn't what you lack, but what nothing can fill? You achieved what you wanted, won battles, went further than you imagined. Even so, the emptiness remains, as if life were happening, but you weren't really living. Today, we're going to talk about something that many people look for, but few find: divine wisdom and how to live with purpose according to the Bible. Because the truth is, you can have success, money, recognition, and still live without meaning. And that's not normal. That's not how God planned it. The Bible teaches about wisdom in a way that goes far beyond making smart choices. It speaks of a life with meaning, according to the Bible, guided by something greater than our own plans. And that's exactly what many people are missing: God's direction for life. Millions of people wake up every day, fulfill their obligations, go home, but deep down, they don't know where they're going. They don't know what God's purpose is for their lives. And that hurts. It hurts more than any visible failure, because it's a silent internal failure that corrodes from within. But what if I told you that this emptiness has a name, and that the Bible already knew this thousands of years ago? This search for meaning didn't begin with you, nor with your generation. It runs throughout human history. And the Bible is full of people who ask the exact same question: why am I here? Living with purpose, according to the Bible, is not a modern concept. It's an ancient need, engraved in the heart of every person from the beginning. And do you know why? Because we were created for something greater than just existing. We were created to have communion with the Creator, to reflect His glory, to live according to His will. Let me tell you about a guy who understood this in practice: Joseph. Remember him? That young man who had grand dreams, but who was betrayed by his own brothers, sold into slavery, and unjustly thrown into prison. Everything crumbled. All his human plans turned to dust. And you know what happened? In the midst of the darkness, Joseph didn't lose his purpose. Because his purpose wasn't in the circumstances, but in the presence of God. Years later, when he became governor of Egypt and saved entire nations from famine, Joseph said something profound to the brothers who betrayed him: "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." Do you understand? Joseph discovered that biblical teachings about purpose don't depend on what happens to you, but on who is with you. How many times do we feel like we've lost our way because things didn't go as planned? Joseph teaches us that the Christian purpose for life is greater than our plans. It's about trusting that God is writing a story that we can't yet fully see. And what if the purpose of your life is also hidden in a trial that you haven't yet understood? Now pay attention, because things are changing here. When the Bible talks about wisdom, it's not talking about a high IQ, a diploma on the wall, or the ability to solve complex problems. No, what the Bible teaches about wisdom, it's something completely different from what the world calls intelligence. Proverbs 9:10 makes this very clear. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. Do you see? Biblical wisdom for living begins in a place that many people ignore, in the recognition that there is a holy, sovereign God who deserves our reverence. Christian spiritual wisdom is not about accumulating information. It's about transformation. It's about letting God change the way you see life, people, problems, and opportunities. It's about having your eyes opened to the spiritual reality that exists behind everything we see. You can be brilliant in the eyes of the world and still live in spiritual darkness. You can have all the technical answers and no answers for the soul. Because true wisdom is not born in the human mind. It descends from heaven. And when that divine wisdom touches your heart, everything begins to make sense in a way you never imagined. James 3:17 describes this wisdom beautifully. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. Isn't that poetic? But it's also profoundly practical. wisdom that comes from above. It doesn't make you arrogant. It doesn't make you look down on others. On the contrary, it makes you more human, more compassionate, more like Christ. And that radically transforms the way you live, decide, and walk. This biblical wisdom for living isn't theoretical. It changes your conversations, your relationships, your financial choices, the way you react when someone hurts you. It gives you an eternal perspective on temporary things. And that, my friend, is true freedom. Before we continue, if you're enjoying this content and want to receive more biblical teachings about purpose, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. This helps us reach more people who are also seeking to live with purpose according to the Bible. Returning to the topic, do you know the difference between human wisdom and divine wisdom? Human wisdom tries to solve everything on its own. Divine wisdom recognizes its need for God. Human wisdom seeks control. Divine wisdom seeks surrender. And that's where everything changes. Because when you stop trying to be the God of your own life and acknowledge that there is a true God who loves you and has a plan, something supernatural happens. You finally find peace. Let's talk about something that bothers a lot of people. The fear of the Lord and wisdom. Fear sounds heavy, old-fashioned, even frightening. But calm down, because this isn't about being afraid of God as if he were a tyrant waiting to punish you. The fear of the Lord is about reverence. It's about recognizing who he is and who you are. It's about understanding that there is an order in the universe and that you are not the center of it. Does it sound harsh? Perhaps. But it's also incredibly liberating. Because when you live with this healthy fear, with this deep respect for God, you stop living in the anxiety of having to control everything. You stop demanding so much of yourself to be perfect. You stop collapsing every time things don't go as planned. Why? Because you trust that there is someone greater in control. The biblical principles for living well all begin here, in the recognition that God is God and you are not. And there's something curious about this. The more you understand this, the freer you become. Because the pressure of having all the answers is lifted from your shoulders and placed on his shoulders. Proverbs 1:7 doesn't mess around. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. So if you want to live with true purpose, you need to start here. And then comes the question that begs to be asked. Have you been living as if God were optional in your life, or as if he were essential? Proverbs 3:5-6 is one of the best-known verses in the Bible, but do we really understand its weight? Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight. Acknowledge the Lord in all your ways. All of them. Not just in big decisions, not just when things are tough, but in everything, at work, in your relationships, in how you spend your time, your money, your words. God's direction for life, it doesn't come in flashing neon lights in the sky. It comes in everyday life, in the small choices that reveal who you truly trust. As decisions guided by God, they have one hallmark: peace. Not necessarily ease, but peace. That inner certainty that you're on the right path, even when the path is narrow and difficult, because God's direction isn't always comfortable, but it's always good. Some people wait for a miraculous sign to make decisions, but forget to consult the Word, to pray, to seek wisdom from those who have walked further. God does speak, but he usually speaks through the means he himself established: the Bible, prayer, the community of faith. And you know what's even more beautiful? The more you walk in God's ways for life, the more you learn to recognize his voice, the easier it becomes, more natural, because you come to know his heart and not just his rules. Have you given space for God to truly guide your steps? Or do you only ask for blessings for plans you've already made? Here's a truth that might surprise you: God's purpose for life, it's not a final destination you reach, and that's it. It's a journey. It's a daily process of aligning with his will. Many people become paralyzed, waiting to discover the great purpose of life, as if it were a secret mission that God will reveal in an epic moment. But the truth is that purpose reveals itself as you walk, as you obey in the small things, as you say yes to God in things that seem insignificant. How to find purpose in God? Start where you are, with what you have, serving faithfully in tasks that no one sees. Because God doesn't call those who are ready, He prepares those He calls, and the preparation happens in the process. God's will for life, it's not complicated. He wants you to love Him, to love people, to do good, to grow in holiness, to use your gifts, to glorify Him. Everything else is just details that He will reveal as you walk with Him. Romans 12:2 gives us a precious clue. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will. See, the renewal of the mind is the path to knowing His will. And what if the purpose you seek is already right in front of you, disguised as simple obedience? There are days that are difficult. Days when you wake up tired, face problems that seem unsolvable, deal with complicated people, and at the end of the day you ask yourself, what was the point of all this? That's where something powerful comes in. Christian faith and purpose in life. Faith isn't just for Sundays. It's not just for times of crisis. True faith transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary. It makes you see that washing dishes, working, taking care of children, being faithful in marriage, honoring commitments, all of this has eternal weight when done for the glory of God. God's wisdom for everyday life. It teaches you that no activity is insignificant when you live consciously in His presence. Colossians 3:23 says, "Whatever you do, work at it with all your heart, as working for the Lord, not for human masters." This changes everything. Suddenly that seemingly monotonous job takes on new meaning. That seemingly boring routine becomes an act of worship. Because you're no longer just living to fulfill tasks, you're living to honor God in every detail. And when faith gives meaning to everyday life, even the difficult days become bearable. Because you know you are building something that the eyes cannot see, but that the heart recognizes, a life that matters for eternity. We live in a time when everyone has an opinion on everything. Voices multiply, advice contradicts itself, and amidst so much noise, how do we know what is right? That's where spiritual discernment in the Bible. Discernment is not distrust. It is not pessimism. It is the ability that the Holy Spirit gives you to see beyond appearances, to perceive what is of God and what is not, to distinguish between good and almost good. Hebrews 5:14 speaks of mature people who by constant practice have trained themselves to distinguish good from evil. Do you see? Discernment develops. It is not automatic. It requires practice, constant exposure to the Word, and intimacy with God. How to live according to God's will without discernment? Impossible. Because you will be carried away by any wind of doctrine, by any popular opinion, by any passing feeling. But when you have discernment, you can evaluate things with spiritual clarity. And here's something interesting. The more you know the truth, the easier it becomes to identify a lie. It's like a money expert who recognizes a counterfeit bill just by touching it. He doesn't need to study all possible forgeries. He knows the real one so well that any imitation becomes obvious. Have you been seeking this discernment, or have you simply followed what everyone else does? Now we've reached a crucial point. Everything we've discussed so far points to something bigger, living with eternal purpose. Because the truth is, this life isn't everything. It's important, but it's not the end. The Christian purpose for life, it goes beyond earthly achievements. It goes beyond professional success, financial stability, and a perfect family. These things are good, but they are not eternal. And if you live only for that, you will reach the end of your life and realize that you built on sand. Jesus was direct. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. Matthew 6:19-20. This isn't about despising life here. It's about having an eternal perspective. When you understand that your life has an eternal impact, your priorities change. You stop chasing things that won't matter 100 years from now. You start investing in relationships, in character, in generosity, in making a difference in the kingdom of God. And you know what's beautiful? Living with eternal purpose doesn't make your life here any less intense. On the contrary, it makes it more meaningful. Because every choice, every word, every act of love, everything gains eternal weight. 2 Corinthians 4:18 sums it up well. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. The big question is, are you living to impress people who will forget you, or to honor a God who never forgets you? And here we arrive at the moment I promised at the beginning, the revelation that ties everything together. Do you know what it is? It's simple but profound. Divine wisdom and living with purpose according to the Bible are not things that are earned. They are chosen. You don't need to be perfect to start. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to wait for the right moment. What you need is to make a choice today. Are you going to continue living on autopilot, or are you going to seek a life with meaning according to the Bible? What does God offer? Deuteronomy 30:19 places this responsibility in our hands. I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life. Choose. Remember the emptiness we talked about at the beginning. It doesn't have to continue. There is a God who created you with a purpose, who loves you deeply, who wants to walk with you. And all he asks is that you say yes. Yes to his voice. Yes to his direction. Yes to his purpose. A divine wisdom, life-changing experiences aren't for a privileged few. They're for those who seek them. Proverbs 2:6 assures us, "For the Lord gives wisdom. From his mouth come knowledge and understanding." He wants to give you that. He wants to show you the way. So today, right now, you have a choice. Continue the empty search for meaning in things that don't satisfy, or surrender to the only one who can completely fill that void. The choice is yours, and it transforms everything. If you've made it this far, I want you to stop for a moment and reflect. What would change in your life if you truly began to apply these principles? If you sought to biblical wisdom for living, not just as theory, but as daily practice. A God's direction for life, it is available. God's purpose for life, it's within your reach. But it demands one thing from you: surrender, trust, obedience. And when you take those steps, something supernatural happens. God begins to work in you and through you in ways you never imagined. I want to invite you to do 3 things right now. First, if this video touched your heart, share it with someone who also needs to hear this message. Second, subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell to receive more videos, biblical teachings about purpose. And third, leave a comment below. What part impacted you the most? I want to know. And remember, how to live according to God's will. It's not complicated. It's a journey of simple steps, taken with faith, guided by wisdom from above. And that journey begins today, right now, with the choice you make at this moment. I leave you with the words of Jeremiah 29:11, which is God's promise for your life. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." May God bless your journey, and may you find each day the eternal purpose He has prepared for you from the beginning.